Trinity Fatu appeared on Busted Open Radio this week, the former Naomi from WWE, for the first time since walking out of the company last year, and opened up about why she did so. Trinity, for those who don't know, she just made her debut for Impact Wrestling. She wrestled her first match in a year. There was also a very good reason why she has not wrestled since leaving WWE. But on leaving WWE, she had this to say: "I felt very stagnant and I wasn't happy. Ultimately, I left that day because of the way I was talked to and handled. Everything kind of just broke me that day. It had nothing to do with anything else or anybody else. That was just it. I had to. To go through all the backlash and the negativity and the lies and the rumors, and then to also just kind of feel lost, it broke me. It was probably the lowest I've ever felt in my life. But going through that, it made me reset and face it head on and figure out how to learn from this experience and grow from it and just find myself again in all of it. The doors are open for me everywhere, literally everywhere, but I truly feel that Impact is the best choice for me at this point in my life right now with what I want to do. To just be able to work with the talent there, I feel that it's where I will be happiest and most utilized and really get to grow in the ways that I feel I need to right now on this wrestling journey." She did another interview also this week where she called her leaving WWE a blessing in disguise. When Sasha and Naomi walked out of Monday Night Raw, it was a year ago this month, WWE, they issued a very petty statement apologizing for not being able to deliver our advertised main event that night, even though they would routinely announce matches on their own show a week in advance, or they would announce it on the website the day of, and then they would pull them without any explanation. This was common practice for Vince McMahon, and we never got any apologies from them for that. They did it as often as they brushed their teeth and changed their underwear. Then they had Michael Cole go on television that Friday and talk about how Sasha and Naomi, they disappointed millions of WWE fans all over the world with their unprofessional actions. They threw those two women under the bus. Then they put the bus in reverse and they backed over them. And I remember Wade Keller at the time reporting that in speaking with people in WWE, they were puzzled. The WWE people were puzzled by their actions. They said that it felt like Sasha Banks was overreacting to another day at the office. And that she was the leader, and Naomi just went along with what her partner did. There were people in that company working overtime to bury the two of them in any way that they could. And as I said then, the idea of Naomi just going along with Sasha, she really wanted to stay, but, she felt like she had no other choice. This is her friend. This is her partner. Peer pressure, right? She felt like she had to leave. I mean, yeah, Cameron, Naomi's former tag team partner, was one of those people who planted this idea that Naomi may have been manipulated by Sasha to do what she did. Naomi is a grown-ass woman who can make up her own mind. She was not under the mind control of Sasha Banks. She can make her own decisions. And that, as we now know, is what she did. She had her own issues with the way that she was spoken to and treated on that particular day. She said it was the way that she was talked to and handled that day. That it had nothing to do with anybody else. And I point to you the Twitter thread that somebody posted. This was I don't remember if it was the night of or the next day, but it was that week when all this shit went down in May of last year. There was a Twitter thread from a Twitter user who was known apparently to be close to Naomi, specifically Naomi. And what that person said, if you remember about the events of that day, it read like Naomi's side of the story without her actually coming out and saying it herself. That they had issues with the way the creative was laid out for that night. They were the tag team champions, the women's tag champs at the time, but if I remember correctly, I think there was going to be some sort of 5-way or 6-way women's match. Sasha and Naomi were going to be part of it. I think Naomi maybe was going to go over and pin Sasha to win the match. Basically, what they were going to do is they were going to take the women's tag team champions and divide them and have Naomi challenging, I want to say, for the Raw women's title on the next pay-per-view, and Sasha would end up challenging, I believe, Ronda Rousey for the SmackDown women's title. Basically, they were going to use the tag team champions to put over the other women's champions as something for them to do at the next pay-per-view. It may have been Money in the Bank. So that was part of the creative that they laid out for them. So in this Twitter thread, this person said, well, yeah, they had a meeting with their boss. The meeting actually went well, and he understood their concerns. But then the producers got mad. They got mad that the two of them dared to speak out. Probably because it created more work for them. These producers got angry. They started screaming, talked about how they allegedly told Sasha and Naomi to fix their attitudes. That's the quote that stands out to me from that whole Twitter thread. That they were told to fix their attitudes. And that's when they made the decision as a team to walk out. That sure sounds even more credible now, a year later, that we hear Naomi in her own words saying that she walked out because of the way she was talked to. Almost like somebody told them to fix their attitudes. And if you remember that, and I read that on this podcast at the time, then this should not come as a surprise. I was very supportive of Sasha and Naomi standing up for themselves and doing what they did. The worst thing I can say about what they did is that they were delusional in thinking that those women's tag team belts meant anything. They didn't. They still don't. But they didn't. And nothing they were ever going to do was going to change that. They alone were not going to bring value to those titles because WWE was never serious about doing anything of note with them. I applaud them for trying and for thinking that they could. They were put together as a makeshift team. They did the best they could with what they were given, but nothing was ever going to change. And they felt like what they were being asked to do on that night didn't make any sense. Of course it didn't. A lot of what they were writing at the time didn't make any sense. I mean, it's one thing as a fan to watch it and be frustrated. It's got to be even worse to be in the trenches there. This is your character. This is what they have you going out on television and doing every single week, knowing that it doesn't make any sense. And it might actually hurt you more than it helps you. Something else that Cameron did was during a virtual signing she did in February. She spilled the beans about Naomi recovering from shoulder surgery. But she did not talk about the nature of the surgery at the time or what the injury was. Now we know. It was a torn labrum, and she says that she worked with that injury her entire last year in WWE. She told Busted Open, "What people don't know, I worked with a torn labrum for over a year. Just wrestled, kept wrestling like that and didn't say anything because you don't want to look weak. You don't want to look like there's a problem. You don't want to be taken off TV. I just wanted to keep working, so I continued to work with a shoulder injury, and that was affecting me. It did not feel good. When I got the time off, the first thing I did was get my shoulder fixed. I had shoulder surgery, so months off like that, not being able to work and just having all of it gone. At one point, I was like, I'm done. I don't think I'll wrestle ever again. Just working through it all myself mentally, having a great support system and seeing the fans be like, oh, we want you back. We want to see you. How are you doing? The support and my family, I got back to where I needed to be. Got through the injury, got through the surgery. All of that was a lot mentally. Also, being off the road after all this time, all that I've ever known for the past 13 or 14 years, that's been my life. Being with my husband every single day, traveling every single day. And then all of a sudden, I'm sitting home alone. It was a lot, but I feel like it has made me stronger mentally. Physically, I feel great. Just having that time to really miss wrestling, really miss the business, miss the job. I was like, this ain't it. I can't go out like this. We have to run this back. So now she's all healed up and she's ready to go. She's ready to go after the Knockouts title. Impact has a pretty stacked women's division right now, so she's got some quality talent there to work with.